Hello, my wonderful English learners, and welcome back to Super English Talks. I'm so happy that you're here with me today. Thank you for giving me your time and your attention. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that many of you care about deeply. It's a big dream that many learners share, speaking English like a native speaker. Now, before we go further, I want to make something very clear. When I say speak like a native, I do not mean that you need to erase your accent. I do not mean that you have to lose the beautiful sound of your voice. Your accent is part of your story. It shows where you come from, it connects to your identity, and it is something you should be proud of. What we are really talking about is this: making your English smooth, natural, confident, and expressive, so that when you speak, the words come out easily, so that your meaning is always clear, so that conversations feel fun, warm, and real. This stage of learning comes after you already have a strong foundation. You know grammar. You know vocabulary. You can read articles, maybe even write essays. But now you want more. You want your English to shine. You want it to sound alive, the way people really use it every single day. I get so many messages from listeners who feel the same way. They tell me things like, I can read complex articles and my grammar is fine, but when I speak, I sound a little robotic. Or, I know the words, but I can't put them together naturally, the way native speakers do. Maybe you've felt this too. Maybe you've had that moment when you pause, when you hesitate, when you think, I know what to say, but it doesn't sound right. This is normal. Every learner feels this at some point. The truth is, language is not just rules and vocabulary lists. Language is alive. It has rhythm, tone, and flow. It carries feelings, humor, and emotion. It's not only about grammar, it's about the music of conversation. Let me give you a story to make this clear. Imagine a young woman named Leah from South Korea. She was brilliant. She studied very hard and got almost a perfect score on her English exams. Her vocabulary was huge. Her grammar was perfect. She could write essays that amazed her professors. When Leah moved to Canada for her studies, she felt confident. She thought, I know the rules. I know the words. I'll be fine. But soon she discovered something new, something that textbooks never really prepare you for. She would sit with classmates at a busy university cafe. The smell of coffee filled the air, and groups of students laughed and talked all around her. She could understand every single word. But when it was time to join the conversation, she felt a step behind. For example, one friend might say with excitement, Oh my God, I'm starving. I could eat a horse. Leah understood all the words. But when she answered, she carefully put her sentence together. I am also experiencing hunger. Now, that is correct English. There is nothing wrong with it. But it didn't sound natural. It didn't match the flow of the moment. Her response was too slow, too formal, and it didn't carry the same energy. Again and again, Leah felt this way. She knew the vocabulary. She knew the grammar. But she was always one step behind. By the time she had prepared the perfect reply in her head, the conversation had already moved on. Her friends were talking about something else. This left her feeling frustrated. She felt like she was always watching from the outside, as if she was standing just outside a window, looking in at the lively conversation, but not fully part of it. And maybe you know this feeling too. It is not about knowledge. It is about rhythm. It is about learning how to speak in a way that feels free, spontaneous, and real. It felt to Leah as if everyone else in the room was dancing to a fast, joyful song. They moved easily, almost floating across the floor of conversation.
But Leah?
She was marching slowly, carefully, always just a beat too late, always a little out of rhythm. One evening, she went to another small university gathering. It was casual, just students sitting together in the lounge, chatting and laughing. But for Leah, the room felt overwhelming. The English around her came quickly, like waves crashing on the shore. People were laughing, interrupting each other, telling stories, sharing jokes. To Leah, it was like listening to a symphony she didn't know how to join. As she sat quietly, she heard a group talking about a very difficult exam they had just taken. One student, a cheerful young man who always seemed upbeat even when complaining, suddenly raised his voice and said, "That exam was a real nightmare. I thought I was going to pull my hair out." The students around him laughed in agreement. Then another student, usually quiet and shy, joined in with a sigh. "Tell me about it. I was at my wit's end." Leah froze. She understood the words nightmare, pull, hair, and wit. But together, they made no sense. She pictured someone actually pulling their hair in the exam room. She tried to imagine what the end of wit might look like, but it was impossible. And yet, she could clearly hear the strong feelings in their voices. She could feel the stress, the shared frustration, the way everyone instantly understood each other. Later, when the group had broken up, Leah gathered her courage. She walked over to Sarah, a kind Canadian classmate she had just begun to befriend. With a small smile, Leah asked shyly about those strange expressions. Sarah returned her smile warmly and explained with patience. "Oh, when someone says pull your hair out, it just means they're extremely frustrated. So stressed that they feel like tearing their hair, even though of course they won't really do it. And at your wit's end means you're so upset or worried that you don't know what else to do. You've run out of ideas and patience." Leah's eyes lit up. It was as if a switch had been turned on inside her. A real light bulb moment. She suddenly understood that English was not only about single words. It was about phrases that carried strong feelings and painted vivid pictures. The meaning wasn't always literal, but the emotion was clear and powerful. From that day, Leah changed the way she learned. She stopped focusing only on single vocabulary words. Instead, she started listening for chunks of language, groups of words that belong together. She noticed how native speakers often spoke in these ready-made units, these small blocks of thought. It was a big discovery. Instead of building every sentence slowly, piece by piece, she could use these phrases to sound more natural. They were like shortcuts. Whole ideas, feelings, even paragraphs, expressed in just a few words. And that is one of the secrets to sounding more natural in English. It's not only about knowing words. It's about knowing the phrases that people actually use in daily life. Expressions like, on the other hand, it goes without saying, I couldn't agree more. These aren't just random groups of words. They are ready-made thoughts, perfectly shaped to drop into any conversation. They make your speech flow smoothly, save you time, and help you sound more authentic. When Leah first heard the phrase, pull my hair out, something clicked in her mind. She realized it wasn't just a collection of separate words. It was one complete idea, one short, natural way to express a strong feeling. The phrase carried frustration, stress, and intensity, all packed into just a few words. And instantly, she understood the feeling, even if the words didn't make sense literally. Now, let's do a little exercise together, just like Leah started to practice. I'll give you a sentence that sounds very formal, maybe the kind of sentence you would see in a textbook. Then I want you to think, How would a native speaker say this in everyday conversation? Ready? Let's try. Here's the first one. Instead of saying, I am experiencing a sensation of extreme fatigue, what do you think a native speaker would say in real life? Take a second, let your brain search for the most natural version. Maybe you thought of, I'm exhausted. Or perhaps, I'm wiped out. Or even, I'm dead tired. Wonderful. Each of those is short, simple, and clear. And, most importantly, they sound natural. That's the difference we're looking for. Not fancy, not robotic. Just the way people really talk. Let's try another one. Imagine you want to say, I am considering the possibility of taking a brief period of rest. That sounds very formal, doesn't it? So, how would we say this naturally in conversation? Take a moment to think. Maybe you thought of, I'm thinking about taking a short break. Or, I might take a quick rest. Yes, that sounds smoother, friendlier, and much more human. This is exactly the kind of change we want from stiff textbook English to living, breathing everyday English. Because natural English is not just about grammar. It's about flow, ease, and sounding like you're part of the conversation. And this brings us to a very powerful idea, collocations. Now, what are collocations? Collocations are simply words that like to go together. They are natural partners in English, pairs or groups of words that native speakers use without thinking. For learners, collocations can be tricky because logic doesn't always help. For example, we say, heavy rain, not strong rain. Make a decision, not do a decision. Pay attention, not give attention. Why? There isn't always a strict grammar rule. It just sounds right to a native speaker's ear. And when you start to learn these combinations, you suddenly sound much more natural. It's like discovering a secret map to English. You learn which puzzle pieces fit together, and suddenly the whole picture is clearer. Let me tell you about Marco, a learner from Italy. Marco was very proud of his vocabulary. He had studied hard and learned many words, including lots of synonyms. He believed that if he knew 10 words that meant good, he could just choose any one of them anytime. But one day, Marco was talking about a problem at work. He wanted to sound professional, so he said, we need to make a solution. His colleague, Eleanor, a kind woman, understood him perfectly. But she gently corrected him with a smile. She said, in English, we don't usually say make a solution. We say find a solution or come up with a solution. We make a decision, but we find a solution. At first, Marco was confused. He thought, but make means to create, and a solution is something we create. Isn't that logical? Yes, it was logical. But English doesn't always follow pure logic. Some words just naturally stick together, while others don't. That is the power of collocations. Marco began to notice something interesting about English. People don't say give attention. They say pay attention. They don't say make a photo. They say take a photo. They don't say make homework. They say do homework. At first, these little differences felt small and unimportant. But the more Marco listened, the more he realized they made a huge difference. They made English sound smooth, natural, and real. So, Marco started a special collocation notebook. Every time he heard or read a natural word pair, he wrote it down. He noticed that the real secret was not knowing hundreds of words. It was knowing how words like to go together. It was about the natural partnerships between words, the way they prefer to sit side by side. Another listener, Anna from Ukraine, had a similar experience. She was preparing for an important job interview and wanted to sound very professional. She practiced saying, I will do my best to achieve success. The sentence was grammatically correct, but her English-speaking friend gave her some advice. Her friend said, "Yes, do your best is a perfect collocation. But achieve success sounds a little too formal, too much like a textbook. In real conversation, people might say, I'll do my best to succeed, or I'll do my best to get results." Anna made this small change and it had a big effect. When she went to her interview, she felt more relaxed, more natural, more connected. She didn't sound stiff or robotic. She sounded like herself, but smoother and more confident. And all it took was a small tweak. Now let's practice some collocations together. I'll give you a word, and you try to think of the natural pair that usually goes with it. Ready? The first word is fast. What phrase do you think of when we talk about food? Yes, fast food. We don't say quick food or speedy food, even though they mean the same thing. Fast food is the natural pair, the one that sounds right. Here's the next one, strong. What comes to mind when we talk about coffee? Yes, strong coffee. We don't usually say powerful coffee or intense coffee. Strong coffee is the natural, everyday choice. One more, the word take. What do we say when we want to rest? Yes, take a rest. We don't say do a rest or make a rest. The natural collocation is take a rest. Excellent. You can see how collocations give your English an easy, flowing quality. The more you hear them, the more natural they will feel. And the best way to learn them is by reading, listening to podcasts, audiobooks, and paying close attention to how words are put together. Little by little, your ear will start to recognize these patterns automatically. It's like learning the hidden rules of English. Not rules in a grammar book, but the invisible music that makes the language sound authentic. Speaking of music, let's move on to another important part of sounding natural, the music of English itself. This means how your voice goes up and down, where you put stress on words, and the rhythm of your speech. Many learners don't think about this. Some even avoid it because it feels complicated. But intonation and rhythm are so important. They are the heartbeat of English conversation. English is not a flat language. It has melody. It rises and falls. We stretch certain words, we emphasize others, and we use rhythm to show our feelings and our meaning. If you miss these little hints, you might misunderstand what a speaker truly means. And if you don't use them yourself, your own speech might sound flat, even if your grammar is perfect. That natural ebb and flow, that musical quality, is what makes English sound alive. Think about Kenji, an English learner from Japan. Kenji was very good at pronunciation. He could say every single sound clearly. Even the difficult ones, like th and r, were perfect. His teachers always praised him for how precise he was. But there was one problem. When Kenji spoke, his voice often sounded flat, almost like a robot. Even when he asked a question, sometimes it didn't sound like a question at all. For example, Kenji might say, "You're going to the party." But he would say it with his voice going down at the end. So it sounded like a statement, as if he was simply giving information, not like a question. If he really wanted to ask, "You are going to the party?" his voice needed to go up at the end. That rising tone shows curiosity, surprise, or a request for confirmation. But Kenji often forgot to do that. This small detail changed everything. People often misunderstood him. They answered as if he had made a statement instead of asking a question. Kenji was correct with the words, but musically he was off-key. Kenji's big improvement came when he started listening carefully to native speakers. He noticed something important. Questions often rise at the end. Statements usually fall at the end. He also discovered the power of stress, the words we say louder or longer to show importance. For example, think about the sentence, I bought the car. If I stress I bought the car, it means I was the one, not someone else. If I stress I bought the car, it highlights the action of buying, not renting or borrowing. If I stress I bought the car, it shows what was bought, not a bicycle, not a house. The words stay the same, but the meaning changes completely depending on the stress. This was a breakthrough for Kenji. He started practicing not just the words, but the music of the sentence. He listened for how the sound moved up and down. He paid attention to rhythm, tone, and emphasis. He even imagined himself as a conductor, guiding the orchestra of his own voice. One day, Kenji was telling his friend about his weekend. He said, I saw a really good movie. His friend replied, Oh, really? But here's the important part. His friend didn't just say it flatly. He said it with a slight upward tone, showing surprise and interest. It wasn't just, oh, really, as a confirmation. It was an invitation to continue talking. At first, Kenji missed that subtle meaning. He just nodded. But later he realized the tone carried more than the words themselves. So he practiced. Oh, really? For genuine surprise. Oh, really? For doubt. Oh, really? For simple acknowledgement. This tiny exercise opened a whole new world for him. Kenji began to see that the music of English was just as important as the vocabulary or grammar. Now, let's do some practice together. I'll say a sentence, and I want you to repeat it. But don't just repeat the words. Copy the music. Feel the rise and fall. Hear which words are louder or longer. First, a simple question with a rising voice. Are you ready? Make your voice go up at the end, as if you're asking for an answer. Now, a statement with a falling voice. I'm ready. Let your voice drop at the end. Calm, sure, final. Excellent. Can you feel the difference? That's the power of intonation and stress. Here, your voice should go down at the end, showing the sentence is finished. A clear declaration. Now, let's play with stress. I'll say a sentence, and then I'll tell you which word to emphasize. You repeat it with that emphasis. Sentence. She wants to go to the park. First, emphasize she. She wants to go to the park. Imagine you're correcting someone who thought it was another person. You're highlighting that it's her who wants to go. Now, emphasize wants. She wants to go to the park. Imagine she really, really desires to go. It's important to her. Finally, emphasize park. She wants to go to the park. Not the cinema, not the library, not the shop. The park, specifically. See how just moving the stress changes the meaning? This is a simple but powerful way to make your speech more natural and expressive. This practice is often called shadowing. It means repeating after someone, trying to copy not only the words, but also the stress, the rhythm, and the music of the sentence. Shadowing is like learning to play a musical instrument. You don't just press the right notes, you practice rhythm, dynamics, and phrasing. The same is true with English. Even just 5 to 10 minutes of shadowing every day can make a clear difference. It trains your ear to notice small details. It trains your mouth to move in a natural rhythm. And it helps you feel the language in a new way. Bit by bit, you'll sound smoother, more confident, and more like a native speaker. Next up, let's talk about the human touch in English. This means common phrases, informal words, and everyday expressions. This is where English truly comes alive. It's where personality and culture are woven into the way people talk. But it can also be the hardest part for learners. Why? Because the meaning is not always clear from the single words. For example, Under the weather has nothing to do with weather. It simply means feeling sick. Let's look at David, an English learner from Germany. David loved learning common phrases. He even kept a notebook full of them, sorted by topic. He thought, if I know lots of phrases, I'll sound just like a native speaker. One day, David wasn't feeling well. So he said to his friend, "I'm feeling a bit under the weather." His friend understood him perfectly and even gave a sympathetic nod. David felt proud. The phrase worked. But later that week, he heard someone say, "That was a piece of cake." After finishing a task, excited, David tried the phrase with his study partner. After struggling with a very difficult exam, he sighed and said, "This exam was a piece of cake." His study partner looked puzzled. "Really? I thought you found it very hard. You were complaining all morning." That's when David realized his mistake. Piece of cake doesn't mean something is difficult. It means it's very easy. He had used the phrase, but in the wrong situation. It led to a funny misunderstanding. He soon discovered that just knowing a phrase was not enough. It wasn't only about remembering the words. It was about understanding when to use the phrase, why to use it, and the feeling behind it. That's what makes English sound natural. I remember a student named Carlos from Spain. Carlos was an excellent English speaker. His grammar was strong, his vocabulary was wide, and he could communicate very well. But sometimes he had trouble with casual greetings, the small, friendly phrases people use with their friends. Carlos always greeted even his close friends with very formal English. He would say, "Good morning. How are you today?" Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It's polite, it's correct. But among close friends, it sounded a little stiff, almost too formal. Imagine you walk into a cafe and your best friend is there. You probably wouldn't say, "Good morning. How are you today?" You'd say something quicker, lighter, maybe, "Hey," or "What's up?" One day, Carlos's friend saw him and said, "Hey Carlos, what's up?" Carlos wanted to answer correctly, so he thought literally about the words. He replied, "Nothing is up. The ceiling is up." His friend burst out laughing, not in a mean way, but in a friendly, amused way. Then the friend explained, "Carlos, what's up doesn't really mean something is physically up. It's just a casual way of saying, 'How are you?' or 'What's new?'" Carlos laughed, too. And from that day, he started listening more carefully to how people greeted each other in casual settings. He noticed people saying things like, "Hey, how's it going? What's new? Long time no see." Soon, Carlos started using these phrases himself. At first, it felt strange, but quickly it became natural. He felt more relaxed and connected in his conversations with friends. That small shift, from formal greetings to casual ones, made a huge difference in how comfortable he sounded. Let's practice together. I'll give you a situation, and you think of the right common phrase to use. Situation 1. Your friend is about to go on stage for a play. You want to wish them good luck. What would you say? You'd probably say, "Break a leg." This is a funny English expression that means good luck. Situation 2. You've been working all day, it's late, and now it's time to leave. You want to tell your friends you're going home. What could you say? You might say, "I'm going to hit the road." It's a casual way of saying, "I'm leaving now." Situation 3. Your friend is keeping a secret, but you really want to know what it is. What phrase could you use? You'd probably say, "Come on, spill the beans." That means tell me the secret. Excellent. These are the kinds of phrases that make English sound playful and real. Now here's something very important to remember. Don't try to use every new phrase immediately. If you force yourself to use them all at once, your speech might sound unnatural. Instead, first listen carefully. Notice when and how native speakers use these phrases. Then, once you feel comfortable, try them yourself. That way, the phrases will feel like a natural part of your vocabulary, not like something memorized from a list. Let's talk now about informal and polite casual talk. Native speakers often shorten their words or use relaxed phrases that don't appear in textbooks. This makes conversation flow more easily. It also makes people sound friendlier and less stiff. For example, in a formal book you might see, "How are you doing today?" This is correct, but in casual conversation it can feel a little heavy. In real life, you'll often hear, "How's it going? What's up?" All right. Common in British English. Sometimes these greetings don't even need a long answer. They're more like a friendly wave than a real question. If someone says, "What's up?" you can just answer, "Not much," or even just smile and say, "Hey." Leah experienced this too. Her Canadian friend Sarah noticed that Leah often used very formal greetings and answers. For example, Leah once said to a new classmate, "It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance." Now, this is polite and perfectly correct, but in a casual student setting, it sounded too formal. Sarah gently explained, "In everyday situations, people usually just say, 'Hey, nice to meet you,' or 'How's it going?'" Sarah also taught Leah some relaxed alternatives. For example, instead of always saying, "You're welcome," Leah could sometimes say, "No worries." "It's nothing." "No problem." These sound warmer and more natural in many situations. With practice, Leah learned to balance both sides. Formal phrases for formal settings and relaxed, friendly phrases for casual conversations. And that balance is the real secret. It helps you sound polite, confident, and most importantly, natural. Leah started trying out some of these casual phrases with her friends. And something surprising happened almost right away. She felt more connected. Before, she sometimes felt like she was just standing on the outside, watching conversations happen. But now, when she said things like, "What's up?" or "No worries," her friends responded with warm smiles. She felt like she was not just listening anymore. She was part of the group. Her words blended in naturally with the flow of conversation, and she felt more relaxed. Let's practice together. Imagine you see a friend you meet often, maybe in the hallway or on campus. What's a casual way you could greet them? You might say, "Hey, how's it going? What's up? Long time no see." Each one feels friendly, but each has a slightly different flavor. "How's it going?" is a simple, everyday check-in. "What's up?" is even lighter, almost like saying hi. And "long time no see" works when it really has been a while. Now, let's try another one. Imagine you hold the door for someone and they thank you. What could you say back? Instead of the very formal, "You're welcome," you might say, "No worries." "No problem." "Anytime." These short replies are common and sound natural in casual settings. They show friendliness without sounding too formal. Small changes like these can make a big difference in how natural your English sounds. It's not just about vocabulary, it's about showing you're comfortable with the informal side of the language. And that comfort makes your conversations smoother and easier. Now, let's move to something that many learners feel unsure about: the small words and pauses people use when speaking. I'm talking about words like like, you know. If you listen closely to native speakers, you'll hear these all the time. They're everywhere in natural conversation. But here's the secret: they're not mistakes. These little words serve a purpose. They give the speaker a second to think. They show that the person is still talking, that they haven't finished their thought yet. Sometimes they even check if the listener is following along.
For example,
I was thinking about going to the park. Here is just a pause to think.
or
It was a little difficult, Here, means do you understand? Are you with me? So they're not signs of weakness. They're signs of natural, unplanned speech. My friend Chloe once explained this to a learner named Sam. Sam worried every time he said or like. He thought it was bad English because in his English classes teachers told him not to use them. He felt embarrassed when these words slipped out. But Chloe laughed kindly and said, "Oh, don't worry. We all do it. Seriously, everyone says sometimes. It just means you're thinking. And, it's just a way of checking that the other person understands. It's completely normal in casual talk." She even added something important. If someone speaks too perfectly, without any pauses or filler words, it can sound strange, almost like they're reading from a script, not having a real conversation.
Sam was surprised by this.
He realized that the goal was not to force filler words into his speech, but to accept them as natural when they appeared. So, here's the key point. If you use or like sometimes, it doesn't mean your English is bad. It means you're speaking naturally, like real people do. And when you hear them in conversations, don't think the speaker is struggling. Often, they're just pausing to think or keeping the conversation flowing. Understanding this will help you feel more confident and less self-conscious. It's part of accepting that human speech is never perfect. And actually, those small imperfections are what makes speech feel alive, real, and authentic. Now, let's move on to something exciting, showing your feelings and opinions in a natural way. This is where your English becomes lively, colorful, and human. It's not just about saying, "I am happy" or "I am sad." It's about expressing yourself in ways that really let your listener feel what you feel. Native speakers don't just use simple emotion words. They mix action words, descriptive words, and everyday phrases that paint a picture. These little details make their talk easier to understand, more expressive, and more fun to listen to. Think about Ben, an English learner from Brazil. He wanted to show his frustration about a difficult project at his internship. At first, he kept saying, "I am very frustrated with this project." That was clear, but it didn't carry much emotional power. It sounded flat. Then he learned to say things like, "This project is driving me crazy. I'm pulling my hair out over this. It's a real headache." Suddenly, his colleagues immediately understood not just that he was frustrated, but how deeply annoyed he really felt. Those phrases carried real feeling. Let's look at some common feelings and more natural ways to express them. For joy. Instead of "I am happy," you could say, "I'm over the moon." "I'm thrilled to bits." "I'm walking on air." Each of these creates a picture of joy that feels bigger and more alive than just happy. For anger. Instead of "I am angry," you might say, "I'm furious." "I'm seeing red." "I'm boiling milk." Notice how the last two show not just anger, but anger that feels physical, powerful, almost uncontrollable. For sadness. Instead of "I am sad," you might say, "I'm feeling a bit down."
"I'm gutted."
A very strong British phrase. Gutted paints the picture of being completely devastated, as if something has been ripped out from inside you. For tiredness. Instead of "I am very tired," try,
"I'm exhausted."
"I'm worn out."
"I'm drained."
Drained doesn't just mean tired in your body. It means all your energy, physical and emotional, has been used up. Let's practice together. I'll give you a basic feeling. You try to think of a stronger, more natural way to say it. Feeling very angry. You might say, I'm furious, or I'm seeing red. Feeling very surprised. You could say, I'm shocked, I was taken aback, or I was gobsmacked. Gobsmacked is a wonderful informal British word that means so surprised your mouth drops open. Feeling very tired. You might say, I'm exhausted, I'm worn out, or I'm drained. By learning these phrases, your speech becomes much more real and expressive. You stop sounding like a textbook and start sounding like a real person. And more importantly, you give your listener a clear picture of how you feel inside. That makes your conversations more natural, more emotional, and more deeply connected. Now, let's shift gears. Once you can express feelings more naturally, the next step is to focus on something even more advanced. Changing the way you think when using English. This isn't about memorizing more grammar rules. It's about becoming more active, more observant, and more tuned in to the details of communication. The first skill here is active listening for small details. This means going beyond just understanding the words. It's listening for the tone of voice, the situation, the speaker's facial expressions or body movements, if you can see them, and even what is not directly said. In English, meaning is often hidden between the lines. Sometimes a person's pause, sigh, or smile tells you more than their words do. When you learn to notice these small details, you can respond in a way that feels natural and appropriate. That is what moves you from knowing English to living in English. Do you remember Leah's experience in the London market? Let's explore it more deeply because it's a perfect example of active listening in real life. Leah was standing at a busy market stall, trying to buy cheese. The seller was lively, full of energy, and spoke with a strong local accent that made his words hard to follow. At one point, he leaned toward her, gave a playful wink, and said with a laugh, "This cheddar, dear, it's the dog's bollocks." Leah froze for a moment. She knew the word dog. She knew the word bollocks. But together? That made no sense at all. Her dictionary couldn't help her here. But then Leah noticed something important. The seller's big smile. The sparkle in his eyes. The way he leaned toward the cheese with excitement. His positive, cheerful voice. All of these small signals told her, this must be something good. So she laughed softly and asked, "Is that a good thing?" The seller burst into laughter, slapping his leg. "The best, my dear. It means it's absolutely top-notch. Couldn't be better." That day, Leah learned something important. She discovered that the dog's bollocks, a very informal British phrase, actually means excellent or the best. She also noticed how he called her dear and my dear. These words weren't formal at all. They were warm, kind, and made her feel welcome, part of the friendly local way of talking. From this moment, Leah realized, understanding English is not only about words. It's also about tone, body language, and cultural feeling. Hiroshi, a learner from Japan, had a similar discovery. He was at a casual gathering when someone spilled coffee. Another guest said, "Oh, that's just great." Hiroshi was puzzled. He thought they were genuinely happy about the accident. That didn't make sense at all. Later, a friend explained. In that situation, the tone of voice and the rolling eyes showed it wasn't praise, it was sarcasm. The words were positive, but the meaning was negative. What they really meant was, "This is terrible. What a mess." Hiroshi called it a light bulb moment. From then on, he paid more attention not just to words, but to how people said them. the voice, the face, the situation. He said it completely changed how he understood English. These stories show why active listening is so important. It means listening for tone of voice, watching facial expressions and gestures, noticing the situation, and asking yourself, what's the real meaning here? The literal words are only half the story. The other half is in the feelings and culture behind them. Here's a practice idea for you. Watch a short video in English, maybe an interview, a movie scene, or a casual conversation. Don't look up every new word right away. Instead, ask yourself, what mood is the speaker in? Are they happy, annoyed, joking, or serious? What does their face and tone tell me? Then, try to summarize in your own words what you think they meant. This trains your ears and your instincts. It also makes your own responses more natural because you're reacting to the real meaning, not just the dictionary meaning. When you practice this regularly, you start to experience English the way native speakers do, full of signals, humor, and culture. And that's what makes your conversations truly alive. Next, let's talk about the power of storytelling. Storytelling is one of the most human ways of speaking. When we tell stories, our language becomes alive, active, and much more interesting. We don't just give facts, we share experiences. We invite our listener into our world. And when you tell stories well, you automatically sound more natural, confident, and engaging. I remember when I was learning a new language, I found it very hard to tell even a simple, short story. I could say the facts, but I could not make the listener feel anything. For example, I would say, I went to the store. I bought bread. It was raining. Yes, it was correct. Every word made sense, but it was boring. It didn't show any feeling, excitement, or color. It was just a list of events. A friend gave me a simple tip. Try to add details about your senses and feelings. Try to make the listener feel what you felt. So I tried again. The other day, I bravely stepped into the pouring rain to rush to the bakery. The smell of warm, fresh bread hit me as I opened the door, and I felt a little shiver of pure happiness. Do you see the difference? Now, it's not just what happened. It's how it happened and how I felt about it. Suddenly, the story feels alive. It feels real. For you as an English learner, here's a practice method.
Pick a small, everyday event.
It can be your morning walk, something funny your pet did, a short, interesting conversation with someone. Add descriptive action words. Instead of walked, try strolled, rushed, tiptoed, ambled slowly. Instead of said, try whispered, shouted, mumbled, cried out. These small word changes add color and movement to your story. Add sensory details. What did you see? A tiny cat with green eyes moved gracefully. What did you hear? I heard the soft hum of the city waking up. What did you smell? The aroma of fresh coffee filled the air. What did you feel? A sudden wave of excitement ran through me. These sensory details bring your story to life. They make it immersive for your listener. Show your emotions. Use expressive words for feelings like we practiced before. I was thrilled. I felt completely confused. A calm feeling washed over me. Expressing emotions makes your story relatable and human. Follow a simple story structure. Beginning. Set the scene. Where are you? What is happening? Middle. Describe the main event. What happens? End. Show the result or your feeling about it. For example, instead of, I saw a cat, you could say, this morning, as I sipped my coffee by the window, a tiny, soft cat with eyes like green jewels moved gracefully across my garden. It looked so happy, enjoying the sunlight, completely unaware of everything else. It made me smile, a small moment of pure joy to start my day. Notice how it paints a picture, shows feelings, and has a clear beginning, middle, and end. By actively practicing these elements, descriptive actions, sensory details, emotions, and structure, you will start speaking not just facts, but full experiences. Your English will sound much more natural and human. Finally, let's talk about something just as important: accepting mistakes and building confidence. When you tell stories, speak naturally, or try new phrases, you will make mistakes. That's normal and part of learning. The more you practice and allow yourself to make mistakes, the more confident and natural you will become. Mistakes are stepping stones, not barriers. This is really the heart of speaking English like a native. Many learners feel unsure because they think they need to speak perfectly. They want every word to be 100% correct. But trying to be perfect can actually make your overall speaking worse. You might get stuck on one word and then miss the chance to say the next 3 sentences. I remember a student named Chloe. She was very smart. She knew many words and had good grammar. But she was very shy about speaking. Chloe would plan every sentence carefully in her head before saying it. Sometimes she took so long that the conversation had already moved on. She was afraid of saying a word wrong or using the wrong common phrase. She worried that people would judge her. Chloe's big step forward came during a language exchange session. She was talking to a native speaker about her weekend. She accidentally mixed up 2 words that sounded similar, which made a funny, silly sentence. Instead of feeling embarrassed, the native speaker laughed kindly and gently corrected her. They both laughed about it. Chloe realized something very important. Mistakes are not failures. They are chances to connect and learn. They often lead to memorable, happy moments. From that day on, Chloe started speaking more freely. She knew that a little laughter and a gentle correction was much better than staying silent and missing chances. Her confidence grew, and her fluency improved. Another learner, Maria from Brazil, shared a similar story. She was at a party and wanted to join a conversation, but she kept rehearsing sentences in her head, trying to make them perfect. By the time she was ready to speak, the topic had already changed. She told me, "I felt so frustrated, like I was missing out on life because I was too scared to make a mistake." One day, Maria decided to just jump in, even if her English wasn't perfect. She stumbled a little, but the native speakers were patient and encouraging. They understood her and even helped her say things in a better way. She said, "It felt like a huge weight lifted off me." This small act of courage was a turning point for Maria. She realized that connection is more important than perfection. Remember this: every native speaker was once a child learning their first words. They made countless mistakes along the way. Mistakes are natural and unavoidable. The goal is not to be perfect, but to be understood, to connect, and to communicate well. When you make a small mistake, don't worry. Focus on getting your main idea across and showing your feelings. These are signs that you are growing, pushing yourself, and truly connecting with the language. Think of mistakes as steps forward, not problems. So, how can you put all of this into practice and make real progress towards speaking English like a native? It's about building regular habits and keeping a positive mindset. Here are some simple ways to create an English bubble around yourself. Use English everywhere. Change the language settings on your phone, computer, and social media to English. Listen to English regularly. Play English music, watch English news, or listen to podcasts. Find topics you enjoy, for example. If you love cooking, listen to a cooking podcast in English. If you like technology, watch tech reviews in English. Don't worry about understanding every word. Even if you miss some words, your brain starts learning rhythms, common phrases, and natural ways people speak. Learn naturally. This method lets you pick up English without forcing it. It helps your listening, speaking, and overall understanding. By doing these small steps every day, you're creating a natural environment for English around yourself. Over time, you will feel more confident, more comfortable, and more fluent, just like a native speaker. Focus speaking practice for daily progress. If you want to speak English naturally and confidently, it helps to practice every day. The most important thing is to make English practice a habit, even if it's just a little bit at a time. Here are some practical ways you can do this. 1. Daily shadowing. Shadowing means listening and repeating right away. Choose a short audio clip, a sentence from a podcast, a line from a movie, or even a news headline. Repeat it immediately, trying to copy the voice, stress, and rhythm of the speaker. Spend 5 to 10 minutes every day doing this. It's like a warm-up for your English voice. It trains both your mouth and ears to recognize natural English patterns. 2. English journaling. Try writing a few sentences about your day, your thoughts, or your feelings in English. Don't worry about being perfect. Just get your ideas down. This helps you think in English. Writing shows you where you might be missing words or phrases. Later, you can look up the words you don't know and add them to your vocabulary. 3. Talk to yourself. Have short conversations with yourself in English about everyday tasks. Okay, I need to make breakfast. What should I cook? Maybe some eggs. I need the pan. Oh, I'm low on milk. I should add it to my shopping list. It might feel silly at first, but this builds fluent speaking and confidence without pressure. 4. Describe your surroundings. Look around and describe what you see in English, silently or out loud. That's a tall tree. The leaves are bright green. A small bird is singing on a branch. The sky is clear blue. This trains you to think quickly in English and to use descriptive language naturally. 5. Real conversations. Nothing replaces real-life talking. This is the most important step for speaking naturally. Here's some ways to get real practice. Language exchange apps like Tandem or HelloTalk. You help them learn your language, they help you learn English. Local meetup groups for English conversation. Many cities have coffee shop meetups or community events. Online teachers who give personal feedback and plan practice based on your level. Everyday encounters. If you meet a native speaker at a cafe, tourist place, or event, don't be afraid to ask. Could you say that again? Could you explain what that phrase means? Remember Chloe and Leah from our earlier stories. Even small, unexpected conversations can lead to big breakthroughs. 6. Read and listen together. Choose a book, article, or story you enjoy. Don't pick something too difficult. It will make you frustrated. If possible, find the audiobook version and listen while you read. This helps you connect the written word with how it sounds. You'll start noticing how sentences are built, how words naturally flow together, how voice and stress are used to show meaning. 7. Pay attention to your own language. Think about how you would say something in your native language. Then try to find the most natural English way to say it. This helps you translate ideas naturally, not word by word. It improves your fluency and makes your English sound more like a native speaker. By combining shadowing, journaling, self-talk, description, real conversations, and reading with listening, you are creating an English environment for yourself every day. Even just 5 to 15 minutes daily of focused practice can make a huge difference over time. The key is consistency, curiosity, and confidence. Focus speaking practice for daily progress. If you want to speak English naturally and confidently, it helps to practice every day. The most important thing is to make English practice a habit, even if it's just a little bit at a time. Here are some practical ways you can do this. 1. Daily shadowing. Shadowing means listening and repeating right away. Choose a short audio clip, a sentence from a podcast, a line from a movie, or even a news headline. Repeat it immediately, trying to copy the voice, stress, and rhythm of the speaker. Spend 5 to 10 minutes every day doing this. It's like a warm-up for your English voice. It trains both your mouth and ears to recognize natural English patterns. 2. English journaling. Try writing a few sentences about your day, your thoughts, or your feelings in English. Don't worry about being perfect. Just get your ideas down. This helps you think in English. Writing shows you where you might be missing words or phrases. Later, you can look up the words you don't know and add them to your vocabulary. 3. Talk to yourself. Have short conversations with yourself in English about everyday tasks. Okay, I need to make breakfast. What should I cook? Maybe some eggs. I need the pan. Oh, I'm low on milk. I should add it to my shopping list. It might feel silly at first, but this builds fluent speaking and confidence without pressure. 4. Describe your surroundings. Look around and describe what you see in English, silently or out loud. That's a tall tree. The leaves are bright green. A small bird is singing on a branch. The sky is clear blue. This trains you to think quickly in English and to use descriptive language naturally. 5. Real conversations. Nothing replaces real-life talking. This is the most important step for speaking naturally. Here are some ways to get real practice. Language exchange apps like Tandem or HelloTalk. You help them learn your language, they help you learn English. Local meetup groups for English conversation. Many cities have coffee shop meetups or community events. Online teachers who give personal feedback and plan practice based on your level. Everyday encounters. If you meet a native speaker at a cafe, tourist place, or event, don't be afraid to ask. Could you say that again? Could you explain what that phrase means? Remember Chloe and Leah from our earlier stories. Even small, unexpected conversations can lead to big breakthroughs. 6. Read and listen together. Choose a book, article, or story you enjoy. Don't pick something too difficult. It will make you frustrated. If possible, find the audiobook version and listen while you read. This helps you connect the written word with how it sounds. You'll start noticing how sentences are built, how words naturally flow together, how voice and stress are used to show meaning. 7. Pay attention to your own language. Think about how you would say something in your native language. Then try to find the most natural English way to say it. This helps you translate ideas naturally, not word by word. It improves your fluency and makes your English sound more like a native speaker. By combining shadowing, journaling, self-talk, description, real conversations, and reading with listening, you are creating an English environment for yourself every day. Even just 5 to 15 minutes daily of focused practice can make a huge difference over time. The key is consistency, curiosity, and confidence. Finding your own voice in English. Learning to speak English like a native is not about losing who you are. It is about growing your language tools, adding new ways to express yourself, and finding your own natural voice in English. Let me give you an example from my friend Leah. At first, Leah often felt behind in conversations. She struggled to keep up and sometimes worried she would not be understood. But after months of focused practice, listening carefully, shadowing, using common phrases naturally, and trying new ways of expressing feelings, she had a big moment. Leah was giving a presentation to an international team about a project she had worked on. She did not just list facts. Instead, she told a story about the journey of the project.
She started like this.
When we first started this project, we were a little in a tough spot with a tight deadline. Her colleagues understood right away. They could guess that started meant began, and in a tough spot meant facing a problem. Leah continued, letting her voice move naturally, showing emphasis and feeling. But we decided to face the challenge and really put in all our effort. She used common phrases naturally, letting them flow as part of her story, not forcing them. When she described a problem, she did not just say, "This is difficult." She said, "We hit a bit of a problem here, and for a moment, I was completely out of ideas." Her colleagues listened closely. They could feel her struggle and understand her success at the end. Leah finished with pride. And, in the end, I think we've really done an excellent job. Her English was not perfect. She still had hints of her native Korean rhythm, and her accent was there. But her language was natural, expressive, and human. She connected with her listeners not just by sharing information, but by sharing her feelings and experience. This is the goal for all English learners, to find your own real voice in English. A voice that is natural, confident, and full of your personality. A voice that allows you to communicate clearly, express feelings, tell stories, and connect with people. Key lessons from Leah's journey. Speaking naturally is better than speaking perfectly. Trying to be perfect can stop you from saying anything at all. Making small mistakes is okay. They are part of learning. Express your feelings. Use descriptive words and phrases to show what you feel. It makes your English more human and relatable. Tell stories. Even a small story can make your English come alive. Add details about sights, sounds, actions, and emotions. Use common phrases naturally. Don't force them into sentences. Let them flow in your speech, like Leah did with phrases such as "in a tough spot" or "put in all our effort." Practice listening and copying. Shadowing helps your ear and your mouth get used to natural rhythm, stress, and intonation in English. Try new ways of speaking, even if it feels strange. That small feeling of strangeness is a sign of growth. Every time you try a new phrase or mimic a native speaker's voice, you are improving. Daily steps to keep growing. Listen a lot. Podcasts, videos, music, audiobooks, anything that interests you. Shadow small pieces of English every day. 5 to 10 minutes is enough. Talk to yourself. Describe what you see, what you feel, or what you are doing. Write a few sentences in English about your day, thoughts, or feelings. Take part in real conversations, language exchanges, meetups, online lessons, or daily life encounters. Every step forward is important. Even small progress adds up over time. The most important thing is to keep practicing, keep listening, and keep talking without fear of mistakes. Leah's journey shows us that English is a tool to share yourself. It is not about losing your identity. It is about making your ideas, feelings, and stories come alive in English. So, take every opportunity to listen, repeat, tell stories, and try new ways of speaking. Your English can be natural, expressive, and truly your own. Remember, every step you take is a win. Every time you speak, you are improving. Keep going, enjoy the process, and celebrate your progress. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Super English Talks. I hope these ideas and tips help you speak English more naturally, confidently, and joyfully.